Welcome, everyone. This is the daily debate on the 1st of May. And today we have two participants, Poojna and Siri. And the motion for this debate is: should schools have mandatory classes on financial literacy and life planning? And for the first speaker for of this motion is Poojna.
My side is financial literacy classes should be introduced to students. My reason being, students, like any other in this whole world, are clueless. They are not equipped in the knowledge of money or savings or planning for retirement. They don't have this basic knowledge, and parents also tend to leave it. They tend to brush it aside, and they don't teach it to teach it to their children as well as a school might. uh, Especially our new generation, we are especially clueless on this fact. A lot of us need specific instructions. A lot of us have um, lot of us have mental disorders that don't exactly help us in understanding things with ease as much as other people do. So they need specific instructions on how to do it and how to save, how to make money. Taxes, people have no idea. How to save, again, people have no idea. This With financial literacy classes being introduced in school, it helps reduce poverty. It helps with reducing the gap between the rich and poor. Financial inequality will be solved. The widening in our current economy, the gap between the rich and the poor is widening a lot. And to close this gap, we should introduce financial literacy classes. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And so for the against the motion, we have Siri. Please start.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. So, education in schools is a planned affair. A young mind is one of the most influential as well. And yes, maybe your proposal is noble to include curriculums of financial literacy and whatnot, but I want to bring to light the consequences and the drawbacks of the same. Schools and their curriculums are meticulously crafted and put together by a team of experts to cater to what a rising generation might need, right? These same schools are just now starting to understand and recognize the need for flexibility in their same education for these students. And the curriculums that are now changing to let these students take their own paths and explore themselves. Why do you want to burden them with the outside world when they're still trying to figure out the world they are in now? I think that we all can agree when I say that when we bring a change in education, we bring a change in society. But society is a diverse aspect of our nation. And this addition in curriculum may not only be a burden for the students, but will also reshape their financial realities and could derail them from mainstream education altogether. We need to consider not only the long term outcomes, but also the short term consequences. Thank you.
Okay. So you said that suffering for short-term consequences is bad, right? So now this suffering, I feel like suffering for a short amount of time right now, when it hugely benefits our future, would be something I'd be willing to do.
Okay. I did not mention suffering. I mentioned that there would be a lot more burden and there would be a lot more short term consequences for the student as an individual person. And as you're saying, there was a research done by the US Department of Education, and it clearly mentioned, I can pull up the document, it clearly mentioned that even after several years, of the high school students taking the financial course in high school, they still were no more financially literate than those who did not take it. So there is no concrete evidence that this course could actually add value to the student's life.
This was a course given to college students, right?
No, to high school students who then went to college.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that when we introduce financial literacy classes to students when they're young, basic how to give money, how to give rent, how to save up, and how to use wisely, it would majorly impact the way we grow and the way we save in the end. Since these students were taught later in their childhood life, it might have been harder to grasp. But when it's taught to much younger students, it would be much more helpful and it would go like be embedded in their brain better.
Okay, so you are proposing that if we teach children how to be financially literate right now, they would remember the same, and the situation in the economy would be the same in the next, let's say, 20 years if you're teaching them now. Are you saying ki, suppose you teach them how to say how to take a loan, or how to take strategically how to pull out a house loan or a car loan and how to use that properly, do you think the same rules would have, do you think the same bank rates, the same repo rates, do you think making them by heart all of that as a part of curriculum, making them understand and like rote learn all of that right now would be beneficial for the future?
Yeah, sorry. So yes, it would not being house loans and teaching how to do specific interests, like teaching them keep this bank will give you 5% interest on this thing, but not teaching specific numbers, but teaching the basic idea. As in, for example, when I was younger, I was taught save your hundreds and use your tens. If I got money as like 150 rupees, I would save my hundreds for the time being and use my tens. This was taught to me when I was 9 years old. I'm now 16 and it still helps me to manage my allowance. And I'm sure when I grow up further, when I'm 20, 21, 30, 40, this will definitely help me uh, save.
Okay. Financial literacy of what we're talking about is just a basic understanding of financial components such as budgeting, investing, and all of that, right? But did you know when you were 9 years old that there's something called the share market where crores are being traded every day? Did you know? I hope not. Exactly. So, did that make a change in your life? Suppose now, seeing that you are as well an adolescent right now, suppose you go 10 years into the future and you decide to learn trading then. Wouldn't that be more helpful? Understanding a prospect at the same time of its growth is very important, according to me. If I teach you, okay, let me give you a good example. There is a lot of change coming into AI, right? So when you were 9 years old, you probably didn't know what AI was. So if I made you rote learn what AI is, before even there was full advancement in it, before people even knew what it was capable of, before people knew the full length of what AI is actually supposed to be understood as, would that be helpful? It's like saying deep learning is the only part of AI, when actually there's so many more components other than just deep learning.
Okay.
Can I go
So
back?
yeah, just 1 second. What I'm trying to say is I understand your point and you are very right on that. But that is why we start slow. Most younger classes, when we teach math, science, they don't immediately start math in like 12th grade or 10th grade, like sine, cos, tan. They slowly start up from numbers to addition, subtraction, to fractions, and they slowly grow. That's how I'm suggesting we add financial literacy as well. We slowly grow from small subjects that our brains at that time can handle to slowly bigger subject to which our brains can handle now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Siri, you can go.
Thank you. I would like to ask you, Pujana. You had mentioned the gap between rich and poor in society, right? I think that personally, teaching financial literacy to their child is traditionally considered a responsibility of the guardians. Each and every family has a different financial background, a different financial understanding. I may think that hundreds are not precious, while you think hundreds are precious. It completely depends. And this same learning that you want to include in an adolescent's mind may influence them to focus more on financial literacy than anything else other than their mainstream learning. For example, if I take myself, I discovered my family's finances and I got so interested that I indulged in them. And at a point, it did influence my studies because of the stress I was having. And I would say that the same would apply to any student of any background. At the same time, a lot of families have different beliefs and values and approaches, right, to budgeting, investing, and all of that. And maybe making such classes compulsory would like hinder the parental autonomy of all of it and like undermine the role of families in shaping the child's monetary values and the child's how the child behaves with their money.
You raise a good point. I agree that different families have different values on how to budget. But a lot of families, including the poor, the ones farmers, the ones you see living in slums every day, they themselves have no idea on how to deal with their finances. How will they be equipped to teach their student or how will they be equipped to teach their child about finances when they themselves don't know how to deal with it?
Good question. You are saying that even like people in slums who are in a very okay, who are in poverty, they do not have financial understanding or education as well, correct?
Yes.
Uh, with no offense at all, I believe that it is not the children who are responsible to be burdened with the family's financial problems at such a young age. That is why there are so many government initiatives. Yes, maybe the parents are not educated financially, but that does not mean we can impose such a big burden on the students so early into their childhood.
Okay. I personally wouldn't consider financial literacy to be a burden when it's started small, when it's not put as a force. When it's put more of like this is something you should know. This is something that would help you in your future. This would help them like with proper financial training, with the correct teachers, with the correct guidance. You can easily
Okay.
teach all kinds of children, right?
Okay. Uh, if I may rebut, Pujana, when you were in your 10th grade, we had, I assume you're in CBSE, I hope. So when you were in your 10th grade and you were giving your boards, how stressed were you with your own subjects?
I haven't given my notes yet, but I still am very stressed, obviously. But I
Right,
feel
right.
like with
So when there is already such a rigorous curriculum for these students, there are so many core subjects they need to learn. There are so many already mandatory classes such as math, social, history, civics, etc., etc. And students are losing time on their schedule and they're losing time to pursue other things out of academics. Why would we want to burden them with other life planning classes and push them out of their core subjects?
yeah.
And basically give an overload.
Okay, yeah, understandable. Students do get burdened like very easily. We can't deny that. But it's a short period of burden. I completely understand. But and this is why we should also teach the parents on how to raise their children, the teachers how to not put so much stress over their students to perform well during their boards, to perform well during exams. Uh, and teaching financial literacy would be overall good for the economy, meaning more people have good jobs, they have more intelligence, more knowledge, and it's just good for the country's development, economic development, and it just raises our per capita income, our uh, India-wide knowledge.
I would like to conclude by saying that taking such a one size fits all approach is not going to be beneficial for any student in any education system. And this financial literacy and life planning is just going to push them further into their future. While everyone wants to support children to focus on their childhood, right? They want to make sure that kids focus on their current life instead of getting so stressed about their future, their career, trying to decide their job opportunity, their universities, their applications. And as a person who's currently entering that phase, I myself can tell you, even right now, I feel it's too early to be burdened with so much complications in the world. And trying to push that even further back is just going to hinder a student's mentality, according to my perspective.
Yeah, good point. I can conclude saying that starting small and starting financial literacy at a young age would eventually help all. It would help India, it would help students, it would help the general well-being of people who started off poor and dreamt big and wanted to learn more stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you for your speeches and such an informative and interactive rebuttal session. And so now I would like to give my feedbacks. Okay. The first thing is that like we talked a lot about the burden. Like one thing like financial literacy or the management classes gives us burden, and it might not give us burden. Like both points were fair and it was well discussed actually. Like in case of not the burden thing, we could also like say that like if we take management classes, we don't need to do any homeworks for that. I think it would be a good point to include. Okay. And after that, in the speeches, the speeches were extremely informative. But like the life planning, we could also more elaborate on that section because we were very much concerned about the financial literacy part. We can see. Other than that, everything was really good and explained well. Thank you. Okay. So now for the winner. Okay, I would like to also touch on the thing like your style and the way you had like handled yourself during the rebuttal session was very much formal, and it was very good. It's okay. Now after that, for the winner, as we have one for and one against, so like the opposition won. Yeah, the opposition won.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you. We would hope more participation from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.